This is the Mended podcast with Chadwick Hayward, episode 29.
Welcome to MendedPass.com. Let's get back to bedtime.
Hi, Path Menders. Thanks so much for joining me on the 29th episode of the Mended Pass podcast. This week, I am pleased to bring you my conversation with Bethany Stec Janicek, also known as Mrs. Love Chard. Not only did Bethany lose 80 pounds and keep it off, she ignited a passion within herself to share the power of the whole food plant-based lifestyle with the world. Her and her husband Zane run the awesome website Love Chard. She is a certified plant-based nutrition coach and helps others lose weight, reach body freedom, and gain a greater self-love. I love their motto, work hard, play hard, love Chard. Hi, Bethany. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Chadwick. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. I know your brand is doing really, really well, Mrs. and Mr. Love Chard, but we'll get to that. So do you want to give us a little bit of history about where you were and what kind of led up to you dabbling with this whole idea of whole food plant-based?
Yeah, absolutely. So I lived my whole life, my younger years, adolescence, early 20s, late 20s, mid 20s, overweight and obese and even morbidly obese at some points. And, you know, it was a lot of times I used food as comfort because I wasn't really confident in how I looked and how I felt about myself. And I always worried what others thought of me. And so since I wasn't really happy with my body, my life and my health, I turned to food and, you know, round and round it goes. It was just that cycle where you're not happy and you eat junk food and that causes you to be, you know, more not happy. Yeah. And it just kept going. And you know, I'd been on every diet. I mean, this was what I started diets when I was, you know, probably 6th or 7th grade was probably the first, maybe even before that. I always remember being like twice my size or twice the size of all the kids in my class in elementary school. It was just something I was always aware of. And I had tried every diet. I had tried the, you know, cottage cheese and hot dog and saltine diet. I don't even know what that is, but I tried it. I was counting calories. I was doing Weight Watchers. I was not eating. Like I was trying everything that I could think of and that was out there, you know, those fad diets, the pills, the wraps, the shakes, all these things, and nothing ever worked. And by nothing working, what I mean is nothing was sustainable. So I would lose some weight maybe, but it was something that I couldn't keep up with. It was either, you know, not satisfying, not fulfilling. It was too restricting and I would fall off, right? And then I would gain all the way back and most of the time then some. And this went on my whole life up until my early 20s. And I was, I would have been 23 years old when I made the change I decided to make a change. I woke up one morning and I just decided that I had to do something that would stick. I had to find something that would work. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it was going to look like. But I was bound and determined to succeed. And I think that is what helped me succeed is that I made that decision at the beginning. And I remember the day clearly. My younger brother, who's really into health and fitness, he asked me how my nutrition was going, how my lifestyle was going. And I tried to think of all these excuses because at that time it was not going good. I was eating donuts and Cheetos and chips and drinking boxes of wine and all kinds of stuff. And I tried to come up with all the good, healthy things that I had done in the last 6 months and have it appear like that's what I was really doing. I'm like, yeah, I got a gym membership and I've been, you know, watching my portions and trying to make it sound like I was doing really well. And as I was saying this out to my brother, I was like, what am I doing? I'm not doing these things. Get real, you know? And that was the moment that changed my entire life changed that moment. When I caught myself, you know, saying those things in that moment. And So I decided to make a change. I didn't know what that would look like. And, but I started, I cut out the obvious, candy and fast food and even alcohol. But I was still doing like lean meats and fat-free cheeses and like baked chips and, that stuff.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I discovered Dr. Fuhrman PBS Special about the Eat to Live nutritarian approach to the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I watched this special on PBS, and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I have found it made so much sense. It seemed very fulfilling, very fresh, very abundant. And I'm like, I'm in, let's do it. And that is the moment that I started on the whole food plant-based journey. And it just took off, and I lost over 80 pounds and gained confidence and self-love. And it just took off. There was nothing in my life that mattered more than really devoting my time and energy to myself and to this lifestyle. And, when I talk about all those old diets that never worked and they sucked and they were restrictive and stuff, I mean, this lifestyle is the complete opposite of anything I've ever tried.
So were you looking for it that day, or did you just happen to flick through the channels and it was there?
That same brother, my younger brother, introduced me to that special. He was like, I think this might be up your alley. He knew that I was working on, changing my lifestyle and my nutrition and stuff. And he suggested it to me and said, I think this might kind of be up your alley. It's really great information, and, take a look. And so I recorded it on my DVR and sat down and was just blown away, like so thankful that I discovered that, that I was introduced to this.
Yeah. So what were your next steps then? Like what actionable items did it result in?
Yeah. I was so excited. I can't even explain in words, I don't think, how I had a constant smile on my face because I had all these new things to try. Like I went on Amazon, I got all the books, a lot of Dr. Fuhrman's books, but even some other whole food plant-based doctors' books. And I started making recipes. I cleared out the fridge. I was like, done with the 100-calorie packs of Oreos, and I'm done with the fat-free skim milk, let's replace it with almond milk. And I was just so into learning this. And this was 4 years ago. And so, Facebook groups really weren't a thing. I didn't know that, coaches existed for this type of lifestyle or podcasts or anything. And so I kind of was on my own, in my kitchen, with my books and, with Google.
Yeah.
And so I started acting because there's it's one thing to watch a special on PBS, to read a book. But if you don't act on it, then nothing's going to change. And so I put in the action steps that I needed. I took in the information, I applied it to my lifestyle, I adjusted it so that it would, keep me going and keep me excited and have this be sustainable. And yeah, I just never stopped learning, growing, trying new things. And then I added exercise and activity and things like that once I got the food down.
Okay. And so how did that exercise transition come? Was it more of like, I've got this food thing down, now it's time. I know exercise is an important aspect of it. Or was it like, I know a lot of people say that they ended up doing more exercise just because their body told them they needed to move more, or needed to be more active, and they had more energy. So therefore they wanted to exercise. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I've got to go to the gym now.
Right. Yeah. it was more the latter. You're right. Because, any of these other diets that I had done before, it was like, you got to go to the gym, drag your ass out of bed and get to the gym and put in, some hours. And it was always like a chore. And how it happened this time was, you're right. You have more natural energy from these foods that are providing your body with, being able to thrive. And a lot of it was like, all right, like, what's the next thing? Like, I have so much energy. I have, more confidence. I'm able to move around more. I'm dropping pounds, like crazy. And what's the next step? How can I, reach that next level of health? And of course, everyone knows that exercise is important, but it was one of those things that like I wanted to do. I didn't need to do it. Well, I did, but I more so wanted to have this full package kind of, lifestyle feeling.
Yeah. And so you found this approach sustainable on like your prior attempts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It was like, why would I go back to any, standard American diet or try anything else when this was working so well? I was a little bit not intimidated. I was a little bit maybe nervous at first. Like, is this going to work? Is this going to be like all the other times? Is this going to stick? Am I just going to fall off and gain the weight back? But I think what changed this time was the fact that, well, the lifestyle itself is just so great and rewarding, and it's hard not to keep going. But also that I had made that decision at the beginning that I will succeed no matter what. I just need to figure out how to do it,
Yeah. And so did you cut out all oils and stuff at that time, or?
I didn't cut out all oils right away at first. I would say that the oils and, some of the packaged stuff maybe came a little bit later. The fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts and seeds, whole grains, all that was amplified like crazy. The junk was decreased and oftentimes, most of the time eliminated. I would say the oils and salt and stuff maybe came a little bit later. But a pretty easy transition into oil-free, salt-free, refined sugar-free, and refined grains-free.
Yeah. So how quickly did you see results once you switched? Because it was very much a light switch moment for you. It wasn't really a slow transition like a lot of people have.
Yeah. At the very beginning when I decided to make a lifestyle change, and I didn't know about the whole food plant-based lifestyle yet. But I did see some results at the beginning. Obviously when you're cutting, I went from eating pizza, nachos, fast food, chips, cookies, like that was my lifestyle. When I transitioned from that to reducing those things and upping fruits and vegetables, I did see some results and it got me excited. But where I really saw the results, not only on the scale, but, in so many other areas, yeah, it was like amplified. It was like, I'm finally feeding my body what it wants, what it needs. And my body was like almost singing to me, like, thank you, like, this is it, you've heard the quote, I've been waiting my body whispered to me, I've been waiting for this my whole life. Thank you, for giving me what I need. I'd never really looked at it that way, that my body needed me to give it what it needed,
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it was. And my body was just singing, thank you for giving me what I've been wanting and missing out on, for all these years.
That's awesome. And so did your husband, change his diet at the same time, or how did his transition work?
Yeah. So he's super supportive in everything that I do. But what we talk about now is that he was supportive in his words, but he wasn't necessarily actively supportive in doing things with me, alongside me. So he was always, encouraging me to, exercise, or to, complimenting a dish that I made, or saying that I was doing really great. But then he was still having pizza and burgers and wings and alcohol and stuff. But then saying, good job, to you, Bethany, for doing that. I'm still going to do this though. So it was kind of tough, but at the same time, I knew that I had to focus on myself, because in order for me to be a better, fiance at the time to him, I had to get myself right first. I couldn't fully help him until I knew what had to be done and how it worked. And so
you were still learning.
Yeah, I was still learning, and it would have been fun to do it with him, but we're still, even now, 4 years later, we're still learning things together. So we do still get to learn together, but I love that it panned out the way it did, because I was able to then be that, coach, mentor, go-to person for him, right alongside him, to encourage him and help his transition be easier.
Yeah.
Since I had been doing it for, over a year at that point.
So were you guys living together at that point in time, or?
Yes. Yep, we were.
So how were the challenges there for like, were you just each preparing your own meal separately, or like how did it work in the kitchen?
Yeah, the kitchen, I kind of it's funny because he was always in charge of, not necessarily in charge, but he just kind of took over the cooking roles. He would always make steak or make, fries and pizza, and he just kind of handled the kitchen. And then when I started, trying all these new whole food plant-based recipes and going shopping and getting all these new things, it shifted to like, I'm in the kitchen now, and he could make a steak on the side if he wanted to, but I'm going to make this. Okay. And so yeah, for a while it was two different meals. There were times where I would cook his things, and then I kind of slowly phased that out. Like, look, I'm not willing to buy this stuff anymore. I'm not willing to cook this stuff anymore. So things kind of, I would say that the kitchen transition, as far as the food in the kitchen and the cupboards, that was a slow transition. I knew what I was going to eat and what I wasn't going to eat. But there was a time, months and months in, where I said, I don't even want this shit in the house anymore.
Yeah.
So then it turned for him. He was like, okay, and then he started eating fairly well at home. But then when he was out, and he traveled a lot for work, and so most of his meals were out of the house. And so he was going to restaurants and fast food and drinking Red Bulls and all that stuff outside of the house. But it slowly got to be, very almost all whole food plant-based, up until he decided to make his transition too.
Okay. And so what really led to his transition then? Was it seeing your good example, or what was his motivation?
I think it was a lot of things. We had always done everything together, like everything together. And when I transitioned, I found myself doing a lot of things on my own, grocery shopping, looking at recipes, making food, going on a run, going to the gym, reading, watching these documentaries and PBS specials and all that stuff, videos. I found myself doing all this stuff by myself. And while I loved it and I was I was thriving, I was missing doing stuff with him because we didn't go out and get drunk at the bars anymore. We didn't get late night pizza anymore. We weren't doing a lot of the things that we used to do when we were both eating the standard American diet. So, I felt kind of a little bit distant from him, in that our lifestyles and what we were both living out and what we were both eating was totally different. And so, I had a lot of conversations with him about that, how I was feeling a little distant, and I just wanted to experience some things together with him, and he's like, I get that. Okay. And then he showed up a little bit more for me and would go to the gym a couple times and would try this new recipe, so he really did, up his support in that way, but still wasn't on full board. And then about a year, I want to say it was about a year and 3 or 4 months of my start date. I sat him down and I said, look, I'm scared that I'm going to be a young widow based on how you are living. He was, smoking a pack a day, drinking every day after work and more on the weekends, really eating poorly, Red Bulls in the morning and McDonald's breakfast drive-through and stuff. And I'm just like, I think I'm going to be I'm terrified I'm going to have to live without you. And if you love me, do you want me to live by myself, And that, I think, turned on something that had never been turned on before in his mind. And a couple days after that conversation, I just casually asked him if he wanted to do a 100-day challenge with me just to see what it was. That was all I was asking. Just commit to 100 days. I will help you. I'll do the cooking. Like, I'll show you everything. It'll be easy. I'll make it easy for you, but will you do this? And he didn't even hesitate. He was like, sure.
That's awesome.
In my head, I'm like, oh my God. Like, he has no idea what's going to happen. Like, this is it. I got him. And like, his life is going to change. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. I was so excited. And we made a 100-day challenge board with Post-it notes on our fridge, and then transferred it to like a, poster board. And and he was all in. I mean, he was like, let's do it. Let's do it.
So what was that challenge like? What was that 100 days like?
Yeah, I'm looking at the board right now as we're talking. I got it in front of me. I always look at it and pull it out when I'm talking to clients and stuff. But the 100-day challenge was a lot of fun. We did the nutritarian approach, eat to live. So it was a Dr. Fuhrman's approach, and we were pretty strict for that 100 days. I remember, I think he ate a hard-boiled egg on day 4 or something, and he was like, "Oh, I totally wasn't even thinking. It just happened on one of his work trips." But each day we put, what happened that day in regards to our lifestyle, our life together, our nutrition, our exercise. So I'm just looking here. I see we played tennis this day. We shared an entire watermelon after a walk this day. We made black bean brownies for the first time together, doing a lot of things together on this board. And
so it was a way to keep you guys accountable and keep a record of what you were doing.
Yep. And
That's
awesome. It wasn't a strict nutrition plan in that the meals weren't planned out. We just said, hey, we're going to stick to 100% whole food, plant-based foods for 100 days, period. We didn't have set breakfasts or lunch or dinners or anything like that. It was just, we're going to be whole food, plant-based for 100 days.
And that's awesome. And so what were his results during that 100 days? Because I'm assuming you'd been doing it for a year, so you were pretty much going steady at that point, but he would have obviously seen some sort of difference.
Yeah. Yep. About a week or 2 before we started the 100-day challenge, he stopped drinking alcohol because he was traveling a lot for work. So he didn't have any alcohol 2 weeks before. He started at 232 pounds. The 100-day challenge started, and he had already gone down to 218 just from cutting alcohol.
Wow. From
232 to 218 in 2 weeks. And then the whole 100 days, he got down to 173 from 218.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of success for him in that 100 days because it was such a day and night transition. And yeah, like you mentioned, I had been pretty whole food plant-based for a little over a year prior, but in this 100-day challenge, I went from 177 down to 153.
Oh, wow.
So even in this, I got a little bit more strict too in this 100-day challenge, and we both kind of got down to right around our maintenance weights by the end of this 100-day challenge. He had a little bit more to go. I think he had lost another 5 or so. He remains right around 170, 168 or so. But yeah, by the end of this 100 days, we were both down to right around where our maintenance was for a while, and then we've kind of been working out and doing some strength training and different stuff like that. So it fluctuates a little bit, but
that's cool. And so what happened at the end of the 100 days?
Yeah, so at the end of the 100 days, I was feeling so thankful that, he was so willing to do this. And even though it took a year and 4 months to get him on board, it just took that one question, that one day, at the right moment for him to say yes.
There's a good lesson there.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes it takes a seed a long time to germinate, but don't give up hope.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot too. A lot of, I work with a lot of women who are in the same position as I was, 4 years ago. It's like, my husband will never give up this. He will never eat plant-based. He hates vegetables. And I just say, hey, I said the same thing. Zane will never give up this, and not even to give it up, but just to eat less of it and eat more vegetables. There's always progress that can happen. It doesn't have to be a day, a 180 overnight. A lot of people do that and have success with it, but a lot of people also have success with going things, at their own pace while still challenging themselves. So at the end of the 100 days, it was like we got a new lease on life together. We were at that time doing a lot of wedding planning. We were getting married 5 months, 4 months after the 100-day challenge ended. And so he's feeling super fly for our wedding, and I'm trying on my dress, and it's not just about how we look, it's about how we feel. And like I said, I feel like we got a fresh, whole, revived look on our life together.
You were in it together at that point.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So there wasn't any thought of looking back after that 100 days.
Not for me. I think for him, maybe a little bit. And, you know, there are times that, you know, neither of us are 100%, you know, strict with our lifestyle. We allow for life to happen, but we also have goals of what we are wanting for our lifestyle. So as far as looking back and going back to our old lifestyle, I don't think that was, especially after this 100-day challenge, was ever a question in our mind. It was just, how can we continue to love this lifestyle and thrive and make it sustainable and grow and tweak things and, you know, get a little bit more strict here and do a quick challenge, you know, mini challenge here. So yeah, it's all about, you know, really living. And the best part of this lifestyle is that it doesn't end. Like, it's not just a 100-day challenge. It's not just a 2-week, you know, Kickstarter. It's not just a fad diet. It's not just you eat plants for 2 months and then that's it. You can go back to doing whatever you were doing. It doesn't work like that. But the best part about it is that it doesn't end. Like, you get to experience all of these, you know, amazing results for life. Like, you keep the energy, you keep the confidence, you know? So looking back to our old lifestyle, I mean, there is nothing in me that would get me to go back to feeling not confident, you know, anxious, depressed, overweight, you know, there's just nothing that would get me to want that again.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's not like a fad diet where there's diminishing returns.
Right.
You're constantly getting the health and benefit from it.
Yeah. And it keeps getting better. You know, that's one thing I never thought would happen, is that it keeps getting better. But I've seen that, you know, for my 4-year, I call it my Nutritarian anniversary. It'll be 4 years in May, and it still continues to get better. I'm trying new things. I'm discovering new things that I love that I didn't know existed, or new food pairings. The energy is, for, you know, crazy, continues to increase, and the joy of life gets bigger and better. And for me, and, you know, I'm sure Zane would say the same thing. It really does keep getting better. That's
awesome. And so eventually you got to the point where you said you couldn't keep this to yourself. You needed to spread this message to the world. What was the impetus, the changing point for you for that?
I think it was, you know, I've always been a sharer. I've always wanted to, I've always been very social and wanting to share things with others. And I went to college to be a high school English teacher. And so teaching was always kind of, I've always kind of had that in my blood, and, you know, outgoing and all that. And as I, you know, changed and really blossomed into who I am today, and I know how I used to feel, there was just something in me that told me I know there are thousands of people out there that currently feel like I used to feel, and I can help them feel like I do now, and they have to know about it. Like, I have to help them, because if my brother hadn't suggested, you know, that PBS special to me, if he hadn't asked me that question, if he didn't invite me to explore something that I didn't know existed, then I might still be over 235 pounds, you know? I might still be anxious, depressed, obese, and, you know, not truly living. And so I have to do that same thing that my brother did to me, which is share, invite, encourage, you know, and have people aware that this lifestyle exists, because I didn't know it existed. I had no idea.
Yeah, I felt the same way before. Like, it was a world unknown prior to getting a glimpse inside, essentially. So what did you do?
Yeah.
How did you climb to the nearest mountain and scream? Or?
I do have a pretty loud voice, so that probably would have worked. But yeah, right after our 100-day challenge, in fact, it's on my board here. On day 91 of our 100-day challenge, I started my Facebook page, the Love Chard Facebook page. And that would have been just the end of November of 2014. So at first I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm just going to do it. And I started sharing just, some before and after pictures, some of my food, the things I was experiencing, the weight that I'd lost. And I just started to just share stuff. I was interviewed on a couple places. Happy Herbivore interviewed me in October of that year. I was featured in Women's World Magazine, the national magazine, in January of 2015.
That's awesome.
Just sharing the story of this lifestyle and how it changed my life. And I just continued to share and share and share until I realized that I couldn't do this as a hobby anymore. Like, I needed to do it all the time, because I would be at work or I would be, doing something else and be thinking of like how I need to be doing more. And so, July of 2015, right after we got married, my husband and I were both in the position of kind of changing careers, going a different direction, and also living in a different place. And we were able to make the decision that we wanted to do this full time and share with people and change lives and save lives. And so July of 2015, we started Love Chard as a business to help people change their life, gain body freedom, self-love. And, the weight loss is a plus. All the other things that come along with it are life enhancers in themselves. And then the weight just will follow.
Yeah, it's not just a weight loss program for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you come up with the name Love Chard? Is there a cool story there?
Yeah, that was actually Zane's doing. He'd always kind of been, we've always been, entrepreneur type spirits. We had a moving company when we lived in Chicago, and I did some photography for a while, and we've always just kind of been like, business owners at heart. And so we'd always liked the phrase work hard, play hard, love hard, because we're very playful, but we're also very hard workers. And, then we've been eating a lot of Swiss chard. So Zane, he's a fan of puns, and he's like, why don't we make a pun out of this phrase and make it, make our slogan, I guess, so to speak, work hard, play hard, love chard. And I was like, oh, I like that. And then we just used that. We used Love Chard, and then we got married, and our followers started calling us Mr. and Mrs. Love Chard, and that stuck, and we just ran with it.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
That's awesome. So what services do you provide now? Like, is it in person? Is it all online?
Yeah, so the past couple of years, we've been doing a mixture of one-on-one and group coaching, and all of it is virtual.
Okay.
We've been doing a mix of one-on-one and group. What we're moving into now, which we are super excited about, is an online monthly membership site. And that'll launch late June. So I'm super excited, or late spring, I should say. So I'm super excited about that, because we'll be able to help so many more people at a rate that it's affordable and doable for them, where they get that constant support and are able to really thrive with community, with accountability, with love and laughter and friendship. It's basically going to be like an online house party, like all of the time, with tons of hummus, tons of kale, tons of smoothies.
Yeah, so an online support community, essentially.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
we're
awesome.
really, really excited about that.
That's awesome. And so that's launching, you said, in the spring of 2017.
Yeah, it'll coming up here very, very soon.
So if someone wanted to find that, where would they go?
They can head to lovechard.com, and all of the info of everything that we provide there's a link to our YouTube channel, a link to our Pinterest, a link to our Facebook page, membership sign up, recipes, blogs, anything and everything that they would need to work with us and to hang out with us and to change their life with us can be found at lovechard.com.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Like your story is incredible.
Thank you.
It's cool to see someone that transitions so quickly, where it's you kind of got your first nibble and it was delicious and you never looked back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. And again, people transition in their own ways. And I'm so thankful to be able to share my story and to not hold it in, because this information, this lifestyle transformation it's a journey, but it's not something that should be kept to yourself. Like, it needs to be so widely known that you can live so much happier, so much healthier, so much longer. Really optimal health can be reached, and it's not too far out of anyone's grasp, and anyone can do it. If I can grow up and live on Cheetos and chocolate donuts and then transition to how I eat now, then anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that is restricted to a subset of the population. Everyone can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
it is so like all aspects of life touching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Chadwick. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Mended Path podcast with Chadwick Hayward at www.mendedpath.com. If you've enjoyed today's show, please consider firing us a rating on iTunes or on our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/mendedpaths/reviews. You can also join our Facebook group called Friends of the Mended Path podcast. Love to see you there. Thanks so much for tuning in again. See you all next time.
Visit mendedpath.com